thank you guys for coming. First Best Steps, I want to introduce Carol Fernandez. She's with the Catholic Charities. I do want to remind you all, after the workshop is over, make sure when you leave, make sure to swipe out so you can get credit for this workshop. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Angie, for inviting me to be here today. As she said, my name is Carol Fernandez. I'm the president of Catholic Charities of Southeast Texas. That's just the local agency here, so not the National Catholic Charities, just our local one. We cover 9 counties in this area and of Southeast Texas. I could rattle them off to you, but you know that we're here in Jefferson County, but we do serve Chambers, Jasper, Orange, Hardin, Newton, Hope, Tyler, Liberty, and Orange. I think I've covered them all now. So we do cover a 9-county service area. It's a social service agency. We serve people of all faiths or no faith. If you don't have to be Catholic to come to Catholic Charities, you don't have to be Catholic to work at Catholic Charities. And so we believe that, yes, we are Catholic in terms of being faith-based. That's the capital C, but we are Catholic in terms of the little c also, in that we're universal. And so we serve all people and invite everyone to the table to help us share in that work. Just to tell you a little bit about the agency and some of what we do, we have 7 programs right now. One program that I brought some flyers for so you guys can see about this. We have what's called Asset Building Case Management. It's a financial education program primarily, and so we work with families and individuals on helping them to improve their credit, work out a budget, stick to that budget, get a savings plan together. We have what's called individual development accounts, IDAs. It's a savings, a match savings program where for every dollar a family saves, they get a $2 match through an organization called Covenant Community Capital. And then that money can be used towards either purchasing a home or continuing education for the parents or their children. And so there's a lot more to that program, but the one thing that I wanted to just mention to you all, we are working in partnership with Lamar University. Lamar is the lead in the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, VITA. And so spread the word. If you're working and you need to file a tax return, this is a free tax preparation service. There are several sites throughout Beaumont and also in Port Arthur where you can get your taxes done for free. It's e-filed, and so you still get a speedy return. Now, it's not a rapid refund because you don't get a loan against your refund that actually costs money to do that, but you can go and have your taxes done for free. Families that the income limit is up to $50,000 for the household. So if you know anyone who might benefit, or if you yourselves might need tax services, please see us. It's going to be at Catholic Charities, but also around at the public library locations around Beaumont. And then it's also going to be at the public library in Port Arthur. And it's varying days. I've given Angie copies of the 2 handouts here. This Saturday, I think it's at the Elmo Willard branch. Let me just look at that to see. Yes, the Elmo Willard branch from 9 to 1. It's Super Tax Saturday, so you can go and get your taxes done, and they will also have food there. So you get your taxes and have some food and fun maybe at the same time. So that's one of the programs, ABC, Asset Building Case Management. We also have a program called Elijah's Place. It's a grief support group for children. There are 2 different support groups right now. One is for children who's experienced the death of their parent or sibling, and so they come to our agency to get support from other children their ages, and they can come for as long as they like. It's a program. Most of our programs are provided at no charge to families. We do have 2 programs that charge a sliding fee scale, and that's for counseling services and also for immigration legal assistance. But Elijah's Place, so it's for children whose parents or sibling have died, but also if they've had, if their parents are divorced or separated. And because really that's also for anyone who's gone through that, you know, that it's not the end of the world, but it can be very difficult on children to go through that, as well as for the parents trying to maneuver that and navigate the many nuances to those changes in their lives. We also have what we call disaster response still. We're working on rebranding that. Any marketing majors in here? Maybe we can, there we go. We're working on rebranding that because the program started, of course, after Hurricane Rita, and still has been able to provide assistance in terms of hurricane assistance over these years, but it's more evolving to emergency financial assistance, and so we help families with rent and utilities, but we also help with, say for example, sometimes there are women maybe who have gone to the battered women's shelter, they've left their home and everything they had, now they're ready to move back out into their own place, and so we can help with getting furniture or refrigerators or beds and those types of things. So it's still disaster response in the sense that for people who are having their own personal tragedies or disasters, we are assisting them with that. We also have, as I mentioned, immigration services and counseling services. We have a soup kitchen in Port Arthur that is open 365 days a year. It's on Gulfway Drive in Port Arthur. We feed 1 meal a day. It starts at about 10:30. Anyone interested in service projects, surely you're welcome to check that out, as well as any of the programs at Catholic Charities. But the Hospitality Center is definitely a great place to get a chance to see, go in teams to work, or even as individuals, and so we serve that meal every day, 7 days a week. So that's pretty much our programs of the agency. I would like to say, for some of you, maybe you hear this, I hope I'm not dating myself, but there's on the radio, Ricky Smiley. Anybody familiar with Ricky Smiley? Okay. And so he's one of those guys where he does the prank calls, you know, to call up someone and kind of make it really funny. And so one that has stuck with me and my family over the years is there's an episode where he's calling a funeral home and acting like an old lady who's looking for her neighbor. And she really gets really excited, you know, when she's asking for a neighbor and trying to find them. And the funeral home seems to believe that this is a real call. And when they tell her, yes, you know, your friend died, we had their services last week, she screams really loud and she says, "Ain't nobody told me nothing." And so, in our family, whenever somebody finds out something, you know, they're the last ones to get the news on something, we always say, "Ain't nobody told me nothing." And so I'm saying that to you today because you won't be able to say, "Ain't nobody told you nothing," because I'm going to share some things with you that I feel like, why didn't somebody tell me that earlier? You know? And so I hope this will be a benefit for you. We'll be brief and get through it quickly. But I would like to know first kind of who we have here today. So are you all business majors? Everybody? Pretty much? Okay. All right.
I think there's some that aren't. Why don't you raise your hand?
Anyone who's not a business major?
Not.
Not? Okay, well, what's your major?
General studies.
General studies, okay. And yours?
Communication.
Communications. Anyone else? Okay. And then by show of hands, how many freshmen do we have? Okay. And then sophomores? Any juniors? Okay. Seniors by any stretch. Okay, all right, very good. Good to see that we have a diverse group here. And I'm curious if you wouldn't mind raising hands also, but how many of you are here on scholarship for school? You got a full ride scholarship. Okay, all right, very good, very good. And anyone with partial scholarships? Okay, very good. And so I guess that means that for the rest of us, you're either using financial aid, like student loans or grants and those types of things. Anyone having different sources to pay for college? You mind sharing how? You're just paying for it yourself? Oh my, okay. Hey, that's good, that's good.
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket, out of pocket. How many of you are your parents having to pay for your school? one. Okay, well, that's a good number. Okay. And I asked that for a couple of reasons, though, but I want to say, Angie said that the topic for today is the first best steps. And I'm sorry, Angie, I'm changing the topic just a tad bit. Because I think that just the mere fact that you are here today says that you've already taken the first best steps. So that's wonderful. So you should be very proud of yourselves for getting to this point in your educational careers. So what I want to talk about are the next best steps. And my pieces here, I want to talk about learning and education. We'll talk about planning. We'll talk about just some general good habits and some values. And so, with reference to learning and education, I asked that question about who's paying for it. And I hope that it will not make a difference for you if your parents are paying for it, or if you are paying for it, if there's a spouse that's paying for it. You want to get the maximum benefit out of your education. That is just so important, it really is. I can remember when my son was getting ready to start college, he was talking to a friend that had a similar major, and he's telling me that they said, oh, well, we have all of the tests, all of the answers, we have everything already done. We can just give you copies of it. Really? That's the easy way. And I tell you, if you have the attitude of something for nothing, I'm going to get an A and I don't have to do any work for it, it's not going to work for a very long term. It may work in the short term, but it's not going to work in the long term. So I would strongly encourage that you really get the maximum benefit of your education. And that means striving to get good grades on your own, honestly. When I went to college, when I first started, I have to say that I was a young mother. I had my daughter at 17. And so I didn't start college until after I had my daughter. Well, that brings its own share of challenges, being a single young mother trying to go to college and work and take care of her and myself. And so my grades weren't the greatest. And I thought, as long as I can get through, I read somewhere where it says C's get degrees. And they may. But I tell you what, I was crushed when I went for what I thought was my dream job interview with a pharmaceutical company. And the manager asked me, why was my GPA so low? What? Nobody told me that question would come up in an interview. I never thought that that would ever come up. And so low, I had a C+ average, but that was low to them. That was low. And so if you think C's get degrees, it may not get you a job, or not a meaningful one, that you have spent all these years and investing all the money to get that degree. You may not get the job that you want if you're just taking that path of C's get degrees. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. I would also like to encourage you, while you're here in school, and hopefully those of you who are seniors, if you haven't done so already, to take a class in speech or public speaking. I had one class in college for public speaking, and I have to do it often, and I tell you every time I'm nervous. Now, I don't know that if I would be any less nervous if I had gone to Toastmasters, which I'm considering doing that too. Have you all heard of Toastmasters before? You have, yes. It is a club, if you will, that they get together, and I haven't gone to a meeting yet, but I've talked to a couple of the members, and they help you develop that skill of public speaking. And so, because you never know when you might be called on to do that in your careers, it's probably a good investment to do that as part of your learning experience right now. Okay, moving on quickly then to planning. There was a book that I read once, and I didn't read the whole book, I have to confess, but the name of the book was, If You Don't Know Where You're Going, You're Probably Going to End Up Somewhere Else. And so I just can't stress to you how important it is to have a plan. And then you can't just have the plan. You have to work that plan. You know, it's no good to develop a plan and then stuff it in your journals or put it on a shelf. You've got to look at it on a regular basis and see, monitor your progress. How are you working towards your plan? Are you getting done what you want to get done? And one thing that's important, though, about a plan is that it has to be flexible, you know, because sometimes things are going to change. I'll give you an example. You know, when I went through college and I ended up going to work at a hospital in healthcare. And I thought that that was my dream job and I was going to be there. I was at a small hospital and I really wanted to stay in healthcare. So I went to graduate school and I got my degree in master's in healthcare management. And I just knew that I was going to be a COO in a hospital. And then they had a major rift, stock fell, I got laid off. Well, what happened to my dream job there? and so life has gone on, and here I am, nowhere near healthcare really. I'm in social services. And so I had a plan, but I was flexible so that I could move where the opportunities were arising. So that means you have to also be looking and always eyes open, ears open, to find out where those opportunities are. And another thing about the planning is right now, even in school, as you're going right now, I would strongly encourage you to keep a brag book. My brag book has my SAT scores. Yes, I do have that still, many years later. It has my SAT scores. It has certificates that I received while I was in college. It has certificates from my volunteer service at my kids' school, any thank you letters that I received from anyone that said, oh, you did a great job on something, my bosses, my supervisors. I kept that. And believe it or not, it was a very good tool to have when I went to interview for the pharmaceutical company when I was going for that. I think that helped save my GPA story, you know, because I had a brag book to show all the other stuff that I was doing while I was working my way through school, keeping up with the kids and everything. So keeping a brag book, and it's good. It's not just about for the interview, but also for your own edification that you know you've been working hard. Maybe sometimes when things are not going great, you can go back to that brag book and look and see that you do have value and worth and that you have worked very hard and that you are deserving of the job that you were going after, okay? So keeping a brag book, I think, is a really, really good thing to do. One thing that I'd like to share with you is this book, and I did read all of this one. It's The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And I think it's good reading for anyone, any major. But I'd like to share with you a particular part that has stuck with me since I read the book. There's a section where he talks about the law of the few. And he names 3 types of people: connectors, mavens, and salesmen. A maven is from the Yiddish, it's a Yiddish word, and it means one who accumulates knowledge. And so he says that mavens are information brokers. They provide the data for us. They're data banks of knowledge. Salesmen, connectors are kind of your social glue, and they help to spread the information that the mavens have collected. And then the salesmen are people who have the skills to persuade us to do something when we're unconvinced and when the connectors maybe haven't really given us the full story to move us to something else. But the thing that I found really interesting is that, and I'm going to read it because it's really important, it says, your friends occupy the same world that you do. They might work with you or live near you and go to the same churches, schools, or parties. How much then would they know that you wouldn't know? Your acquaintances, on the other hand, by definition, occupy a very different world than you do. they are much more likely to know something that you don't. And I read that to you because it's really important. Truly, if this is your circle of friends, they may not know anything more than what you know. And so it's really important for you to step out then, to kind of step out of your comfort zone and your box and reach out to get to know other people. I guess maybe the buzzword for that these days is networking. It's really important for you to get to know other people outside of your circle. One, so that they can help you, but two, so that you can learn, and maybe you might even be able to help them. And you build a bigger circle, bigger circle of people that you know, and opportunities come through that networking also. So it's really, really important for you to expand that circle outside of just your immediate friends and classmates. Any questions or comments about that? Another part for planning that I think is really important is that you need to know what your passion is. Again, personal story, you know, I thought that marketing, that's what I started out as, a marketing major for business. And that was a good major, it wasn't a problem. But I can tell you what, it is so fulfilling doing the work that I'm doing right now. I never imagined being a social worker. I'm not a social worker, but I'm with a social service agency. And I can remember one of my high school advisors saying to me, "You're going to be a marketing major? I pegged you for social work." I didn't listen to that. I didn't pay attention. I didn't do the career testing. And so, you know, please take advantage of the services that you have here at Lamar and with Angie, so that if you aren't sure about what your passion is right now, that maybe through her resources in that office, you can help figure that out, okay? I would also like to say, I think it's important if you know what your driving force is. Because sometimes when you get out into the work world, it's not fun. It can be stressful. You may not like your boss. You may not like your coworkers. You may be stuck in a little cubicle, and it just may seem very confining. And it may not be something that you can change right then and there. So what's going to be helpful for you to keep going is to know why you're doing it. And so for me, my passion was taking care of my family. I had an interview once and somebody asked, why should we hire you? And I said, because you can trust that I'm going to be here every day, all the time. I'm going to work to the best of my ability because I need promotions, because I need to make more money, because I need to take care of my family. And that helped me. Every time there was a challenge, I just had to look at the picture of my kids and say, you know what, this is what it's about. And so it may not be about your children. It may not be about your spouse. You may be working so that you can take that wonderful vacation to go climb mountains, or to go skiing, or to go scuba diving. Maybe you work so that you can really enjoy your playtime, and that's okay. But if you have a focus on that, and you know that that's what your motivation is, it will help to keep you going during those difficult times. Now, some good habits to have, just to talk about that for a second. Balance, first of all. I think balance in a lot of different areas. One, I'd say trust versus challenge. You know, sometimes it's good to trust what our parents tell us, what our teachers tell us, what our professors tell us, because they know. They have that experience. They have wisdom. But sometimes it's good to challenge what the history is and kind of think outside of the box and do something different, and not just accept what's there. So when do you do that? You have to fill that out for yourself. But so you have to balance between trusting the old and challenging it and looking for something new. Okay. Work versus personal. You know, I just got through talking about vacations and fun time. It's important to have a balance with that. And I can tell you that Right now, this is a do as I say, not as I do. Have your parents ever told you that? Do as I say, not as I do. Because I don't know that I've achieved that balance yet, but I'm working towards it all the time. But I really think it's important to have that balance so that you can give your all when you're at work, and then you can give your all when you're relaxing as well. So balance on that. A balance between being patient, delayed gratification, and instant gratification. I think you all know that already, but there's some folks, my son included, one of my sons, where he wants that immediate gratification. He wants money, he wants to work. I want a car, and I want this, and I want that. But if you delay that gratification just a little bit so that you can work hard, get through school, accomplish your goals, then you're probably going to be in a better position and have more gratification for those dreams and things that you want to have and to do. And so, again, a balance. You know, sometimes, though, you need that immediate gratification because you may need a place to stay and you have to pay for that. So how do you do that? You have to work. But balance that. You may need that money, yes, but try to balance that to make sure that you're not letting go of your schoolwork so that you can just take care of those financial obligations. There are resources out there sometimes, not all the time, that can help you through those difficult, challenging times. And so look for those things in your communities, on your campus here, to see how you can get help if you're really facing a challenge so that you don't give up on the goal of finishing school. It's so important. Okay. Another good habit that I learned early on is that you are late if you're not 15 minutes early. And so that's just a general rule for meetings, for interviews, for work. You're late if you're not 15 minutes early. Another thing, another good habit, I would say, and this ties back to the trust versus challenge piece, but I'm going to say avoid tit-wadding. What is tit-wadding? Well, it's an acronym. This is the way we've always done it. So avoid that, because you can get into a workspace sometimes and somebody's going to tell you, oh, this is how we do it. And so you do that. But you know that there is a better way of getting that same task accomplished. And so don't just accept tit-wadding. Try to do something different. Look out for that. Positive mental attitude certainly will help, again, when times are difficult, but even if it's not difficult, it's a wonderful thing to be around somebody who is full of energy and positive. One of my favorite cartoons is a New Yorker cartoon, and it's two men. They are obviously in jail, and they have long beards, long hair, they're really scraggly. They're shackled by their hands and feet. But one looks over at the other one and he says, here's my plan. And he's just optimistic. After they've been there all that time, he's still optimistic and still positive that he's going to find a way to break loose out of those chains and to get out of that jail cell. So please think of that when you are facing challenges, to have that positive attitude and know and be optimistic that it's going to turn. If you keep working and your persistence, things will turn for you. I'll go back to talking about our asset building case management program, because there were a number of people who were raised their hands, maybe using financial aid to pay for school. And even if you're not using financial aid, just generally a good habit is to manage your finances, manage your money, and not the other way around of letting your money manage you. Get a hold of that. I'm not sure, but I'd be willing to bet that there's a class here at Lamar that you could take on personal finance. So for those non-business majors, and maybe even depending on what your major is in business, it may not be about how you're managing. You maybe haven't had a class yet on that. So look into that and always be conscious of that. That's very important. You'd be surprised, and maybe you know already, but there are a number of companies that when you're applying for jobs, they're going to look at your credit history. They're going to look at your credit score. And so you may have fantastic grades, but you've been running up the credit cards and you have a lot of debt, you haven't paid it on time because you haven't gotten a job yet. Yeah. So please, please always be mindful of your budget and your money and managing that. Another good habit, just in the good habit area, is to be health conscious. And I really go back to, ain't nobody told me nothing. My mama didn't tell me that I was going to have aches and pains getting older, that maybe if exercise would help to relieve that. And so here I am now, later in life, trying to develop that habit, and really, really wish that as a young person that would have been something that that I would have valued and really taken that on as a habit. So please be mindful of your health, of your eating. Don't think you can get away with it now, because I promise when you get older, it really does change. Okay, to talk with you about values. Somebody told me when I started working with Catholic Charities, and I don't know who this quote is attributed to, that says, people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. And so in anything that you're working in, if you're going to be a manager or director, think about that in terms of people that you are supervising and leading. To get those people to work well with you, they have to know that you have their interests at heart as well, that you're concerned for their well-being, you're concerned for their development also. And it will be amazing when you have that connection and they know how much you care, that those people will then go the mile to work for the team and to get things done. So think about that. Treat others the way you want to be treated. I hear all too often, looking at news and just talking with other people, about the way things are in the workplace and how sometimes people scream at you, they treat you, they talk down to you. And so please think about that. If you're going to be leaders, you're going to be leaders in your careers, and just think about the way that you talk to someone else, if that's the way that you want to be talked to or spoken to. Work for what you want. You can't expect something for nothing. There's no replacement for hard work. There just isn't. And so your schoolwork, again, that goes back to not cutting corners. You know, this is a really big deal for you guys. And so you need to work hard at it. Don't think that it should require just 15 minutes outside of class to look over notes. No, it may take you more than that. That might work for one person, but it doesn't necessarily work for all of us. We have different amounts of energy that we need to put in to be successful. So it's not saying that you can't be successful, but it just might take you a little bit more energy and time to work towards the same goal that someone over here maybe, they can walk in the class and it's a breeze for them. Okay. I hear a lot about pay it forward, giving back, service, servant leadership. And so please think about that. What are you doing to give back to the community? What are you doing to give back to people who may have helped you? And what are you doing to just help your community to be a better place? Because you may be doing okay, but there might be someone else who isn't. And so what can you do to help those people? And I promise you that when you do that, you feel there's a good feeling for yourself. You really actually gain more than that person. I know that there have been times, volunteers with Catholic Charities, and they'll say, I thought I was going to come here and I'm giving something to the people. I'm going to be able to, I'm feeding them, or I'm giving money. And once they've had a chance to sit down and talk with some of the clients that we serve, they hear what they've gone through and the sharing, and their lives are changed. So the volunteer gets a change in their life and in their heart. And so please think about that in terms of service to the community and service to your families even. It's really important. And I'd like to say another value, a question to ask yourselves is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? There's another book, and I'm sorry I'm drawing a blank on the name of the author. I didn't write it down, but Who Moved My Cheese is the name of the book. Strongly recommend that you read it. But the big question, the big theme through the book is, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Fear can take away your mobility. It can make you freeze and just stifle you. So think about that. If you weren't afraid, how creative could you be? What problems could you solve? For yourself, for your community, for the world. What would you do if you weren't afraid? One of my favorite things from country song, you have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. I think that says it all for itself. You have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Have courage. And so I'm going to close. Another thing, anybody remember, well, you might, Arsenio Hall, when he used to do his late night show? Oh my goodness, I'm really aging myself. So in his monologue, he used to have a piece that he did, things that make you go, okay, somebody goes, yes, things that make you go, And so I'm going to share this with you. This comes from, it's not my own work, but I think it's wonderful stuff. Just a few points. Marion Wright Edelman is the founder of the Children's Defense Fund. And so she has a paper that she's written about lessons from Noah's Ark. And so I just want to share a few of those with you. Don't miss the boat. In this spot, she's talking about education. Education is so important. It's so important for you to finish out your education, your degrees, and get that, to always learn. It's not important just for you. It's important for everybody out there. So whatever you can do to help children to be educated, to go through. There's so many children who drop out high school, don't finish. If there's anything that you can do to help anyone else get their education, then we're all going to be better for it. Plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. Plan ahead. This one I really like. The ark was built by amateurs. The Titanic by professionals. And so what she says is you should feel and use your power. And the last thing that she said that stuck out for me is build your future on high ground. She says, let's leave our nation and world better than we found it, more just, more helpful, more peaceful, more productive, and more unified. I hope that those are some things that you all can take to heart and take with you from here today. Anyone with questions for me or comments that you'd like to share? Yes, ma'am.
Lamar University has a whole department that's dedicated just to community service. It's called Civic Engagement. I don't know if I'm following any of y'all on Twitter, but I manage all of our social media networks, and you can follow us on Twitter at @LU_volunteering, and we have volunteer opportunities almost every single day with Catholic Charities, and sign up on OrgSync as well. You can look under the service tab, and so it'll give you plenty of ways to get involved, not only with Catholic Charities in South Texas, but also other organizations as well.
Lots of agencies here now, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Did everyone hear that? You want to say it one more time? What's the...
@LU_volunteering.
Very good.
On Twitter, Instagram, and you can search it on Facebook too.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Can I have a copy of your notes?
Yes, you certainly can.
Oh.
I will leave them with Angie. Yes, definitely. Thank you for asking. Okay, anyone else? Well, you guys are getting out a little bit early. That's always a good thing, right? Thank you so much for your time. And